Hi, welcome to the course. This course will guide the users on the process of registration on FIU-IND 2.0 for REs. This also includes Principal Officer and Designated Director enrollment. Enrollment of reporting entities have the following scenarios. FIU India identifies potential RE in new sector, and as part of onboarding of new sector, details about the RE and the contact person, termed as primary user, are collected. FIU India will send email and SMS notifications to the primary user asking them to enroll the RE in the FIU-IND portal. As part of migration process from FIU-IND 1.0 to 2.0, the principal officers of RE that are already present in FIU-IND 1.0 need to enroll details of the RE in the new portal. FIU India will send email and SMS notifications to the principal officer asking them to enroll the RE in the FIU-IND portal. Reporting entities already registered on FIU-IND 1.0 are required to enroll themselves on FIU-IND 2.0 using credentials received on registered email. Enrollment invites are sent by FIU India on the registered email IDs of primary users of existing reporting entities. After receiving the email, click on the link as shown on screen. Note: if not received the enrollment email, go on fiu-ind.gov.in and click on the Sign Up for the RE enrollment link as shown on screen. After clicking on the link, user will land on RE self-enrollment page as shown on screen. Enter all the required details in the form and click on Submit button. System will also display a confirmation message on screen with further details. Rest of the workflow is same for all the users after they receive the enrollment email. Upon clicking the link, enter the existing email ID in the email ID section. Enter temporary password mentioned in the email, and then click on Sign In button. Upon clicking the Sign In button, the user will be asked to mandatorily set up 2 security questions. In case user forgets the password can be reset by answering the security questions. 2 questions need to be chosen from the available list and their answers need to be typed by the user. After typing both the answers, click on Save Answers button to move further. Post clicking on Save Answers button, the user will get a success message on screen. Click on Continue button to complete further process. Post clicking on the Continue button, the user will be redirected to the Change Password screen. The user is then required to enter the temporary password as received in the email. After entering the password, click on Continue button. Post clicking on Continue button, the user will be redirected to this screen. On this screen, the user will enter new password and confirm the new password in the Confirm Password text box. The password created must comply with FIU India password policy as provided on screen. Password is case sensitive. Must be at least 8 characters long. Must include at least 1 letter. Must include at least 1 number. Must have at least 1 symbol non-letter or number character. Must have at least 1 lowercase letter. Must have at least 1 uppercase letter. Must not include part of your name or username. Must have at least 2 types of the following characters: uppercase, A to Z, lowercase, A to Z, number, 0 to 9, symbol, exclamation mark, hash, dollar, etc., other language characters not listed above. Post entering the required information, click on Change Password button as shown on screen. Kindly wait after that as this process may take some time. Post successful change of password, the user will be redirected to the success message screen. Click on Continue button to move to the next screen. After clicking on Continue button, The user will be then redirected to the FINGate pre-login page. To log in now, user needs to click on the link mentioning Login to FINGate 2.0 as shown on screen. On this screen, enter the email address as the user ID and the newly created password as password. After entering the required details, click on Sign In button. Note: in case the user has forgotten the password, click on Forgot Password functionality mentioned on screen and follow the steps to reset the same. After a successful login, the user will be redirected to the device registration screen and user needs to register their smart device. At a given time, only one smart device can be registered for the user. User needs to download the Google or any other authenticator application from Google Play Store or Apple App Store. The user can either scan the QR code or enter the generated key on the screen. Then the user needs to enter the generated code from the authenticator application to proceed ahead. To proceed, click on Finish Registering Device. Post clicking on Finish Registering Device, the system will give two options to the user to receive OTP. OTP via email, OTP via SMS. After selecting the desired option, click on Continue button. Enter the received OTP in the OTP section and click on Sign In button. User can also click on Resend New OTP button to receive the OTP again. Post successful login, the user will land on this screen. The user shall identify its organization as business entity or individual reporting entity before proceeding for the registration process. Reporting entity registers as business entity or individual person. In this case, the reporting entities is incorporated as legal entity and must be registered with a regulator or a government body. It is mandatory to provide designated director details along with principal officer details. Reporting entities enrollment process will be completed only after both principal officer and designated director are completed. In this case, reporting entities is working in individual capacity. The designated director details are not required. Business entity, an individual entity. After selecting the business entity from previous screen, the business reporting entity enrollment form will open. Some of the details shall be auto-populated as per the data available with FIU India. However, the reporting entity can modify these details. The primary user shall validate the reporting entity details and modify the same, if applicable. The primary user will further upload reporting entity's business license certificate from the relevant regulator. In case any of the regulators is not applicable for the reporting entity, then the certificate of incorporation will have to be uploaded after choosing the regulator as other. The choice of regulator is auto-populated based on the reporting entity type or line of business. If applicable, reporting entity can select multiple lines of business. The self-declaration file is not required at this stage. After filling all details, the user will click on Next. Note: RE can select only one line of business at the time of enrollment. To add multiple line of business after successful enrollment, kindly refer the Add Multiple Line of Business section of the User and Profile Management course. The registered address of reporting entity will be auto-populated based on the entry by FIU India at the time of initiation. The primary user will validate the address and update the same, if required. The primary user needs to fill name, designation, mobile number, email ID and other details to initiate an enrollment link for initiation of principal officer registration process. A principal officer and a primary user can also be same. The primary user will also enter the designated director mandatory details to initiate designated director registration process. Users must enter DIN for designated directors for reporting entities which are registered with Ministry of Corporate Affairs. Please note, it's mandatory to select the checkbox as displayed on the screen to proceed further. Post successful submission of reporting entity enrollment request, the primary user will see success message pop up as displayed on the screen. After successful completion of application, the identifier details of FRE will be validated by FIU India. In case of validation failure, primary user will receive a notification regarding validation failure, and will be asked to correct the details, which includes a self-declaration form. Principal officer and designated director will receive the link to complete the registration process. The user shall identify its organization as individual reporting entity before proceeding for the registration process. For individual reporting entity, the primary user will be the principal officer, and reporting entity and principal officer enrollment are completed together. The primary user shall validate the reporting entity details and modify the same, if applicable. The primary user will enter the relevant reporting entity identifier and upload the respective attachments. The primary user will further upload reporting entity's business license certificate from the relevant regulator. In case any of the regulators is not applicable for the reporting entity, then the certificate of incorporation will have to be uploaded after choosing the regulator as other. The registered address of reporting entity will be auto-populated based on the entry by FIU India at the time of initiation. The primary user will validate the address and update the same, if required. If the reporting entity details are validated successfully, the reporting entity and principal officer enrollment process is completed. The user account is created. If validation fails, the user will receive a notification to change the concerned fields and provide a self-declaration and upload the files again. Till then, the status shall be request for additional information. PO will receive the link to complete the PO registration post successful enrollment of primary user or RE. The process of password generation and soft token registration will be same as discussed earlier in the course. The principal officer shall validate the auto-populated user enrollment details and modify the same, if applicable. The principal officer will enter the identification details and upload the attachment. PAN card or passport are options for identification purpose. Please note, self-declaration is not applicable at this stage. The principal officer will be navigated to the communication address form and update the address. The principal officer will be navigated to the Add Other User Details form. The principal officer can add non-principal officer user and their roles optionally at the time of enrollment. Alternatively, it can be entered as part of reporting entity user and profile management after enrollment. The principal officer can submit the form without entering non-principal officer user details. Post-successful submission of principal officer enrollment request, the principal officer will see success message pop up as displayed on the screen. Further communications on the principal officer enrollment request will be communicated via email and SMS. Once the identifier details of principal officer gets validated successfully, the user account will get created. If validation fails, the user will receive a notification to change the concerned fields and provide self-declaration. Non-principal officer, if added during enrollment, will receive the link to complete the non-principal officer user registration. DD will also receive the link to complete the DD enrollment post successful enrollment of primary user or RE. The process of password generation and soft token registration will be same as discussed earlier in the course. The designated director will receive an email containing detailed instructions. Post password generation, the user will log into FIUs portal. The designated director shall validate the auto-populated user enrollment details and modify the same, if applicable. The designated director will enter the identification details. Following are applicable identity details are to be uploaded: passport, PAN card. The designated director will be navigated to the communication address form and update the address. It's mandatory to select the checkbox as displayed on the screen to proceed further. After successful completion of application, the identifier details of designated director will be validated by FIU India. If validation fails, the user will receive a notification to change the concerned fields or provide self-declaration. Non-principal officer will receive the link to complete the non-principal officer user registration. After following the steps mentioned in the course previously related to password generation and soft token registration, the primary user of regulator, Department of Post, DOP, Property Registrar to complete the following steps for registration. The primary user shall identify its organization as business entity or individual RE before proceeding for the registration process. The respective form will open. The primary user shall validate the RE details and modify the same, if applicable. For RE type, regulator, Department of Post, DOP, and Property Registrar PAN, Entity Identifier ID and Regulator License ID are not applicable, so by clicking on checkbox user must provide a declaration that PAN, Entity Identifier ID and Regulator License ID are not available. PAN, Entity Identifier ID and Regulator License ID will be non-mandatory in this case. Self-declaration will be applicable on the same page. The template for the self-declaration can be downloaded from the RE details page. The self-declaration should be printed in the RE's letterhead and stamped with the seal of the RE. Rest of the flow is same as discussed earlier in the course. In case of any questions or help, please email us on the help desk email ID. You can also call us on this helpline number. Documents related to RE registration process can be downloaded from Learning and Resource section on the FIUs portal and can also be accessed from FINET 2.0 Resources section on FIU website. Thank you. You have completed this course.